Go ahead and tell me what you were saying about the video, the image.
Yeah, there was a nice stream of light catching the oil platform, and it sort of glows very golden, like it's very nice.
Oh yeah, I did. That was a great time of day for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Was
remember
that early in the morning or later in the evening? Like
that's coming from the east, so it wasn't early, bright, like maybe right when the sun was coming up.
Yeah, that's called the golden hour.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're going to get stuck into the subject, or are we still saying no?
Well, you're the boss. You called this meeting.
Okay. Yeah, one of your favorite words is existential. Existential. It's a word I've never used. So what do you mean by when you use the? Can you put like it into context?
Sure. I mean, it's not very complicated of an idea, I don't think. It just means what's the meaning of all of this? Why do we exist? What's the meaning of existence? Why are we here?
Okay.
What's the purpose? Like, okay, so I'm here. I wrote this journal entry that says, okay, I just woke up. Now what? Like how do I find meaning? How do I find purpose? Is there any meaning to any of this?
Okay. All right.
Now, if you want to get more technical, you can go back to Sartre and Camus and all of those guys with Kierkegaard back in the 1800s, and maybe a little bit before that with Descartes, possibly. But that's more technical philosophically in terms of existentialism. But if you remember, the correction that is offered in the movie Waking Life is that existentialism is getting a bad rap in philosophy because it's looked at as a nihilistic, pessimistic philosophy. But the professor in the movie said, I don't think of it that way. I think of it as an expression of how do I get the most out of life? And in order for me to get the most out of life, I have to I have to apply myself, because the meaning I get out of life is the meaning I give to it. So if I give myself a shitty meaning, I'm going to have a shitty life.
Okay. So but Descartes was, I think, therefore I am.
Yeah, and that's only halfway there, man.
Okay. Enlighten me.
Well, my experience as I've been just reflecting on my own understanding of everything that I've thought and researched and unthought and uncommitted myself to, the key that I've seen in everything, including numerous media, particularly with cinema, that is that memory is the key to existence. So if you and Anya are just meeting together and she says something that she throws out there as a trifle, but you pick it up and say, ooh, I'm gonna get her this that I saw because of what she said. She said something that was meaningful to her. You have something in your experience and you see it, and then you remember her words, and then you buy this thing and give it to her as a gift. You've now expressed the fruition of what your memory produced. Had you not remembered what she said, you wouldn't have been able to show how kind and considerate and generous you were, thoughtful. So memory in that instance is key. Again, where did I put my keys? Why did I come in this room? What was I just, it's all about memory. So Descartes' purpose was to discount everything that he'd been taught. I'm going to completely swipe left of everything that I've ever been taught. And what is it that I actually know? I know that I exist. I know that I'm thinking right now. I think, therefore I am. But thinking has to progress beyond that, because if you forget who you were 5 minutes ago when you just got fired from your job and he told you why you got fired and it was XYZ. If you don't remember those areas that you have to improve on, you're going to have that same thing repeated over and 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 over again in your existence until you get your head straight. So memory is key. So my Latin phrase is now to take Descartes' "I think, therefore I am," cogito ergo sum, and I've now arrived at memini ut fiam. I remember in order to become.
Okay. All right. Okay. But it's also experience, isn't it? You become through experience and through what you've overcome or what's overcome you, and that sort of makes your character. Is that part of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I remember being well, one of the disciplines that we used to have at school was the cane. We were hit with the cane, but then that became illegal while I was still at school, and so the teachers resorted to humiliation in front of your peers, and that weapon was, for me, a lot more. It hurt more than getting the cane. I mean, you got the cane in front of the rest of your peers, and you felt like a hero. You know, I'm tough. But if the teacher humiliated you, made you sort of minute in front of your peers, now that hurt a lot more, because then the kids would carry that on at a later date. They'd remind you of what the teacher said. You know, they think that you are that character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's developing your character as well. You're becoming a person that has been damaged through humiliation. Well, you remember what the way you were treated. I was watching that video that you recommended, the one that you did, and you were going through what was the 9 fruits of the Spirit. You didn't call it the fruits of the Spirit, but that's the way it's listed in the Bible, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faith, mildness, self-control. And what I concluded from what you were saying is that the whole purpose in life is to become a better person, to aim for a better character. Had I picked you up correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, now that satisfies you with that question of why we are here and who am I? That's a satisfactory answer to you.
Well, no, I think it needs to develop more from where you're starting, because it's not just the end all be all to say to become a better person. I mean, again, if you take a negative consequence, if I have a relationship with someone and in that relationship, my behavior or something that I've said, or maybe perhaps, my conditioning in terms of a stressful situation, or I'll just say, for instance, I'm going to paint myself into the worst possible characteristic, and that is that I've emulated my grandfather, who was just an angry, angry, angry German who just did not know how to communicate. I'll say that again. He did not know how to communicate. And so he would then get angry when things didn't go the way he clearly told you that it should go. I just clearly said what I want, and he just explodes.
Yeah.
I don't do that, thankfully, in excess. I'm sure that there are small little, well, like I was just, right now, I was getting triggered by this whole technological snafu. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to turn on, plug in, talk to you, and there we were, trying to, why is this happening? Don't know why this is happening. It doesn't always happen, blah, blah, blah. But so let's say, for instance, then if I'm driving in traffic with my significant other, and she says, you know what, you're a really impatient driver, right?
Yeah.
How am I going to process that information? So if I'm going to be better the next time I'm in traffic, I have to remember her words that I'm impatient. And I can say to her, perhaps if I was aware, and I would say, can you show me, can you give me an example of like when I lose my, like, when is it that so then I can pay attention to those turn signals or those lights or people cutting me off. She said, yeah, when people cut you off, you swear under your breath. I can hear you. I'm like, okay, great. Hear you. I'm going to work on that. So then if in a month she's paying attention and she says, you know what? You're not losing your temper anymore when that happens. I've improved.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose of life, or one of the purposes in life.
Well, I mean, it's like it's a piece of the pie. It's only a percentage of well, I mean, it's a piece of your existential pie. The character development that you have becomes the character expression that you demonstrate in those situations at work, in a relationship, at the store, with your neighbor. So meaning and purpose isn't just necessarily character development, but character development cannot be separated from your meaning and purpose. So here's another insight that I arrived on my own for myself, and I wrote a paper, and it's on my channel. It's called it's called Reflected Awareness. So I came across this concept when I was driving Uber and had riders, and I began to interrogate them by asking them to think of their ideal partner. And I say, are you married? Yeah, I'm married. Okay, pretend you're not married. What does your ideal partner have to, who does that have to be? Who do they have to be? And for the most part, they were all character development qualities. There were a few people that said handsome and beautiful, but for the most part, it was all character. Loving, kind,
Yeah.
Adventuresome, smart, whatever. So if a person lists 4 things that they say, I think that my future partner, I want them to be generous and kind and gracious and patient. They just described themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for their opposite in the opposite sex or the opposite partner, depending on which way you swing. I don't really care anymore. But
yeah,
because it's the same principle.
yeah.
So I had these beautiful moments where people would think, oh my God, I am describing myself. That is me. I am those things. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. Be that. And then when you meet someone, my criteria, this will be my test case, because it hasn't happened to me yet. I'm still manifesting this existence. When I meet someone, if that person does not have those 4 qualities, that is not my match.
Yeah, that's a two-way street, though, isn't it? I mean, if you're looking for the perfect woman, she might be looking for the perfect man, and so that she's not going to choose you either.
Well, if you listen to or read my paper, I counter that argument by saying this is not about perfection. This is not about finding your better half.
Mm-hmm.
This is simply finding your mirrored awareness, which means that you can both be at a different level of maturity along that path.
Yeah. But when I was listening to what you got to say about the 9 points that the Apostle Paul made, it's fantastic advice, and it's something that if you choose 1 or 2 of them, and over the next year I'm going to improve on my patience, particularly with the children, or my faith as well. My faith is one of them. I'm going to get closer to my God, or see that doesn't satisfy me. We'd have to expand on what did Paul mean by faith. Forget faith. So with the patience was one of them. Love, joy, peace, or joy. I'm a miserable old man. That's what Anya keeps telling me. I'm a grumpy old man. So I'm easily past remarkable. So that'd be something that I could work on, and maybe within a year I've improved greatly on my grumpiness. That's my whole existence. That's the point of my existence, to become a better person.
In that relationship. I mean, if you think back, if we go into the past where all you had to be was someone who had a domicile and maybe a few animals and a garden, and you could exist without having to work for a living,
Yeah.
then you would only be in a, this is my opinion, you would only be in a place where your character would be expressed every time you leave the house or come in the house or stumble over a chicken. Do you kick the chicken? Do you yell at the chicken? Or who are you? How do you react to these small little trifles? Which is why I said right when we came in here, I said a true Jedi would not be triggered by these technological difficulties.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take you to King Solomon and the writer of Ecclesiastes. We don't question that it was him that wrote it, or whether it matters or not.
It doesn't matter to me.
I mean, he starts off by speaking to his son, and he's sharing what frustrated him, what he felt was vanity, that it wasn't the women in his life, and it wasn't the money that gave him a satisfactory answer to what was the meaning of life. And when we get to the end of his book, chapter 12, he says, again, he's still talking to his son. He says, "And by these, my son, be further warned, there is no end to the making of many books and much study. Where is the body? When all things has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is, fear God and keep his commandments, because this is the whole duty of man." So he was trying to put his son on the right path, but it's pointless studying so much, because there's so many different ideas, so many books. Women have never given him any satisfaction. Mind you, he had 900 women in his life, and he was a very wealthy man, and his wealth didn't give him any happiness. And so he concluded, fear God, keep his commandments. Would you agree with that? Would that be part of your...
Well, we'd have to go into the whole God thing in terms of what that means. So I would take issue with that statement. But at the same time, the teachers of what is referred to as new thought or mentalism, the divine is your subconscious. So God is your subconscious. And so all that means is you can have books, fine, have books. But if you have books and books and books and books and books and books and books, but you have not love, you're nothing.
Yeah, a sounding piece of brass.
And so then you have a standard of love. And where does that for you, or not for you, but for the person, the expression of love isn't in a book. I'm not going to go get Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility and tell my wife, look, read right here. This is what I'm doing. This is me. I'm Darcy right here. You see this? I'm expressing everything through myself, which means I'm listening to God and then acting through his commandments. So I have all of those things here, which is the temple. This is the Holy of Holies right here, in which all of the storehouses of truth and knowledge reside.
How different would you be from, say, 5 years ago to where you are now?
I would probably say just a little bit better fine-tuned in the way I say what I'm saying.
Okay. So you were satisfied with that you'd got the answer to the question, who am I, and why existence?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. That 5 years ago. Okay.
No, I knew who I was when I was 17.
And okay, all right.
I didn't understand it to its fullest expression. but I knew that I was a shepherd of souls and a guide to the lost.
Okay. And that was your purpose in life.
Yeah, so then I went into the ministry. I went to be a pastor.
Yeah. Although you didn't find that satisfying as time went on, did you?
Well, that's not because of not. It wasn't because of the field, and it wasn't because of my ambition. It was because of the joke that's been said from numerous pulpits. I'm sure ministry is the greatest field work that someone could engage in. The only problem is other people.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, all of my experiences as a young pastor, the people with whom I ministered were on such a low level of vibration that they simply just divorced me in my immaturity, right? Because again, I was 30 and getting fired from, two consecutive youth ministry jobs without any recourse, without any opportunity to redress my errors or whatever it was. They said, "Nope, we're getting rid of you, cutting you off, you're fired." So I had to sit back and try to understand what happened when no one gave me any information as to why this is happening. In the sense that we're not going to give you an answer. We're just firing you. Okay. And I say, is there any opportunity for me to try to make amends? No. So to me, that's just a huge deficit in the balance of relationships. It's like breaking up with your girlfriend or breaking up with your boyfriend the first time you have an argument.
Yeah.
And you're not going to talk it through. You're not going to try to figure it out. Nope, we're just going to get rid of you. See ya. So I had to learn a lot of that information through introspection. And so, yeah, I mean, I would, it's so funny that you bring this up, I suppose, because I've got a really good friend with whom I share a birthday coming up on Tuesday. He's a year older than I am. We both went to seminary. And he posted on Facebook, looking for a youth minister, would be great if you had musical background, blah, 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 blah. And I said, man, if I were a Christian, I would totally want to be on your staff. And then I thought, I could still do that. I could still be a Christian minister to Christians. I know how to be a Christian. I can tell you exactly what you're supposed to do in this situation in terms of trusting God and reading your Bible and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I can give you that package. And you would never know that I wasn't a Christian if I didn't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going to go ahead.
No, it's an interesting concept that you could be, you could go through a theological college, Bible college, as an agnostic or as an atheist, and just write the right answers and perform the right duties.
And be an amazing person.
Yeah, yeah.
Or be a dick.
And have all the faith and the conviction.
Yeah, and have all the faith. Yeah. That's the great irony of it, man.
Yeah.
You get Christians pointing at you and saying, you walked away from Christ. You're not a Christian anymore. And I'm thinking, you're not happy. You don't have joy. You're impatient. How are you any better than I am?
It's just today. Well, a couple of years ago, my wife had a Christian born again experience, and she's been going to a gospel meeting, and I've been supporting her, and I like the meetings because there's a high level of teaching, quality teaching, and that's put forward very well. The right amount of humor, the right amount of analogies, and based on the scriptures. It's not a boring sermon by any means, and I quite like that. Now we got an email this morning. They're asking for greeters to be at the front door and just to greet people. We would like to do it, and I'm struggling with it because I would like to greet people and I've got to know them. But basically, I'm not a believer. I'm an agnostic, so I don't think I could do it with a good conscience. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. Just be a good person. You know, do you remember the character in our previous chats and live streams with Flat Earth? Do you remember Gleam?
Yeah, I do remember. I remember the name. Yeah, remind me.
I mean, it's not worth unpacking everything that he is per se, but he's very very intelligent and
Hmm.
very well researched in all of these matters. But he would always say to me in the chat, or something, or make myself known, or if he showed up in my chat, he would always say to me, "Salute, king." He would hail me as a king,
Okay. Well,
and I began to think to myself, that makes me feel so empowered and uplifted that I started to address men and women as my king and queen. And
okay.
I can tell you that to 99.9% that they all light up. They all let out a little bit of a laugh or an expression of just shock and awe that someone would call them that, especially the women. And how many times would the women have said, "Oh, if my husband would call me that," and I would say to them, "Do you call him your king? Start calling him your king, and he'll call you his." It's reciprocal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So check this out. So there was a woman in southern Colorado in the town that I lived in that was a couple of houses down from me. She moved into the house. She was renting the room at the bottom, and I was walking by one day, never saw her before in my life. She was out gardening, and I said, "Salutations, my queen," and she lit up and was very excited and blah blah blah. And I didn't see her for 2 weeks.
Do you think that we can get away with it because of our age, though?
No, I think you should just do it and be
Just do
surprised be surprised at how people are open to that kind of hospitality or congeniality or
it. Right.
affability.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Uh,
just real quick, so a couple of weeks after I greeted her, and we hadn't talked since then. I came around the corner when she was standing there, and she said, "Hail, my king."
very good.
I didn't ask her to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't tell her to do that, but you know how that made me feel? Amazing.
Yeah. 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 I try and compliment people as well. And I think it's because of my age. You know, I can say to a younger woman, you're looking well today. Now, if I was 30 and saying that to another 30-year-old, that might have been coming across a bit creepy. Or to a man, you know, that's a smart haircut. You know, or
Yeah,
those
but
are,
see, I get that all the time, though. Well, I don't want to say all the time, but it's very frequent. In fact, I walked into Cantina last night for karaoke, and a very attractive Hispanic uh, woman who was, I wouldn't think, any more than 30 years old, and she paid me a compliment
on what?
on my clothing,
Oh, right. Okay. You
on
broke
the
up.
way I was dressed. She
Yeah,
complimented
yeah.
my appearance.
Well, that's good. So,
And all of that to say, I'm just saying that we have those barriers that are already being crossed by people who say things nicely to other people, regardless of how old they are. It doesn't matter how old you are.
yeah. Okay.
I guess is what I'm saying.
So, you felt your vocation at age 17 to be a pastor, to shepherd people.
Hmm.
And then the church that you were with sort of dismissed you for unexplained reasons. And so, did you feel that you were then in the wilderness, or were you in the wilderness?
I mean, I think that I think that there were aspects of having dark nights of the soul because it's the whole question of like, it's not trying to cross the T and dot the I and say to God, "Look how good I'm being, and you should be giving me what." It's just simply I'm just simply trying to be who I am. And, if you were to go back to the very first church that I was at in Johnson City, Tennessee, and take a poll of people who were offended by me and those who were not, I don't know what the ratio would be, but it wouldn't be 100% in one direction, or how many people liked me or didn't like me. There were people that I had relationships with that I thought loved me, and I loved them, and we had a great relationship. I
Yeah.
got fired because of the Karens and the Dicks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got fired because of the Karens and the Richards. Don't be a Richard.
Yeah.
Those were the people that fired me.
Yeah.
The people who liked me, they didn't fire me.
Yeah. So were you unconventional?
Yeah, I think so in certain ways. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't like the church that I was just describing. Their very first complaint was from a parent who was not amused that I performed what we call in the States, and what I was raised doing as a kid in youth group, meaning my youth pastor did this with me and other kids. You come to a stoplight where you're going to be at the stoplight for a long enough time, and everybody gets out of the car and runs around and changes seats.
Mm-hmm.
In traffic.
And is there a lesson to that?
Yeah, don't do it. You might get fired, because I did it and got fired.
Right. Sorry, I didn't get the analogy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was the very first thing. They said, yeah, we heard you took these kids out and you did this and you called a Chinese fire drill and no. I'm like, this is why you're firing me?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I did this. I'm like, I did this in youth group. Like, what the crap is wrong with you people?
Yeah, I remember hearing an analogy of a driver of a bus that had a route to do and so many pickups along that route, but he was running late, and so he ignored the stops where people were waiting for him because he had a schedule to keep. So he totally forgot the purpose of his bus route is to pick people up, but he was overwhelmed with the keep to the schedule. He missed the whole point of being a bus driver.
Yeah.
Do you get that analogy?
For sure. Yeah, it makes sense. That's almost reminiscent to me of the story with Martha and Mary with Jesus. Right? Yeah. Martha's all worried about the food and the prep and the hospitality, and she's stressed out and she's not a Jedi. And there's Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus, calm, cool, collected, and just soaking it all up.
Yeah. Yeah, this church, as I would say, that we're going to, and I'm enjoying. It's very well attended, and they've opened up another branch to their church, and sort of split the congregation. And this new one is close to where we live, but they've appointed a female pastor. Now, my background would be that a woman shouldn't teach in the church, going off the Apostle Paul's words. And I said to the pastor, I said, I'm struggling with the idea that there's a woman pastor there because of what Paul says. He forbid a woman to take authority. And he sent me. He's a nice lad. He's not. He didn't take issue with me questioning it. He just asked me to watch a YouTube video explaining why a woman can teach in the church. It wasn't a good answer because it didn't actually say it didn't ask the question, what did Paul actually mean by saying that a woman isn't to teach in the church? Having said that, we're still going to the older church, the mother church, rather than this new one around the corner. Any thoughts on that?
I have been going to a spiritual living center here in town for the past 3 weeks, and they only have women teachers.
Okay.
And so I haven't had an issue once. I sat down, said, "Bring it, let's go." Like I don't know how to really address the Pauline aspect of the conundrum of authority in the church. But my initial thought was, let me leave you with this for a minute because I want to go get something to drink while we continue to talk, if you might permit me. So let me say this real quick and then let you chew on it while I go get myself some water.
Okay.
So the thing that I was saying was spiritual living center, women teaching. Oh, if we have a husband and wife, is the wife not allowed to offer her husband insights into how to remedy his character or deficiencies in his
Oh, yeah.
his
Yeah.
well,
Yes.
she has authority over him then. That's what she's doing.
So what did Paul mean then?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it again in another way to come at it from a different perspective. But let me
Okay, go ahead. Go
let
ahead.
me do that real quick. I'm going to write myself a note to give you an answer real quick. I'm going to go wine, anger, Ephesians 6. All right, I'll be right back. So this is in Ephesians 6, where Paul is giving the Ephesians direction about how to just get along. And there's a passage here that I've never heard anyone take the way I take it, but I think it's better understood this way than the typical way. And it says, I have to find it because it's been a while since I've looked at Ephesians. All right, well, Paul says in Ephesians 5, therefore be imitators of God, dear beloved children, and walk in love, just as Christ also loved us and gave himself up for us as an offering sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma. But sexual immorality, impurity, greed should not even be named among you. No filthiness, no foolish talk, no coarse jesting. These things are not fitting. You should be giving thanks. For this you know that no one who is sexually immoral or impure or greedy or who is an idolater, no one who is like that has an inheritance in the kingdom of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words. Because of these things, the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Okay, so in Ephesians 5:6, we have this language of God's wrath and the sons of disobedience. Well, who are the sons of disobedience and why is God angry with them? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let no one deceive you, because God's wrath is coming upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore, do not be partakers with them, for you are You were formerly darkness, but now you are light. Walk as children of light. Do not participate in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. And he then says, all things become visible when they are exposed by the light, for everything that becomes visible is light. And that just goes back to Jesus's words in his ministry when he was saying that there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
And then you have in Ephesians 5:14 a quotation from Isaiah. For this reason, it says, awake, sleeper, awake, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Now, Paul is talking to people who are not dead physically, and he says, wake up and be born again. Rise from the dead. So it's a metaphor. Resurrection is a metaphor. It's not literal. It's never about the literal body being raised from the dead. He says, be careful how you talk, redeeming the time, because these days are evil. Then he says, wives, be subject to your own husbands, for the husband is the head of the wife, just as Christ is head of the church, but the church is subject to Christ. And since the church is subject to Christ, wives ought to give their husbands deference in everything. And where is this passage where it says, oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. Okay, here we go. So this is, I'm going to go back. Therefore, Paul says, look carefully how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. On account of this, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Do not get drunk with wine, for that is dissipation, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord, giving thanks for all things. Baptists love this passage because it says, do not get drunk with wine. Therefore, you should not drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay. You know why Baptists don't have sex standing up, right?
It's just a joke.
Well, you tell me, why don't Baptists have sex standing up?
I don't know.
Because they think it'll lead to dancing.
Oh, right. Okay, very good. Yeah. I got it the wrong way around.
So I don't believe that Paul is using wine and alcohol here as a linear physical contrast. Rather, we have to be biblical students of the prophets. Not only that, but also of Jesus in Gethsemane, because he was about to go to the cross and he was in the garden praying for deliverance, and he was sweating, as it were, drops of blood. And he prayed, Father, take this cup from me. The question is, what is the cup? Well, the cup is filled with wine, because wine in the Old Testament is an act of judgment. It's a metaphor in the prophets over and over and over again that if you are drunk with wine, then you are experiencing the judgment of God.
Is it also the winepress of God's anger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So what Paul is saying here, because of the events, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion as a preterist who understands the context of the New Testament to be exclusively for that time period. The judgment that Paul is talking about here against the sons of disobedience is the judgment that is coming against the people of Israel who are not following the law to its desired end. And very apropos for your bus driver, okay?
Mhm.
Because in words that I've used in the past, the Old Testament is the scaffolding to your existence, which means the scaffolding has to come off at some point. You don't keep it the whole time. You don't keep it. You let it go. It's like training wheels on a bicycle, on a trainer, right? You call them. Do you have that stuff there in
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you don't. You're 50 years old. You don't ride training wheels anymore. So you have to move on to the development of the epic of the stage of history. So that's what we're happening here. We have Jesus coming on. He's saying, look, the law is coming to an end, and I'm the end of the law. So come to me. But the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes and the lawyers, they had invested their entire existence in the law. So it became just schedule keeping, not eating. And Paul came out and said, look, you can have all of those laws. You can keep all of those laws. But if you do not love, you're just a banging cymbal. You're just a clanging sound. So
Yeah.
the storyline, though, is if you remember back to the original Jedi in the New Testament, which is John the Forerunner, right? Because Jesus said to his audience, he says, when John was preaching to everyone out here, how many of you went out and saw John preach? Everybody raises their hand. He's like, amen, hallelujah. Did you go out to see a pussy-footed milk toast of a man? No. You went out to go see a Jedi stand up against the establishment and call people out. And so when the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the lawyers came to the baptism in the Jordan River, John the Forerunner said, you slimy snakes, you brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the wrath that is coming? That's at the beginning of the New Testament. John is talking about wrath that's coming.
Yeah.
What is that? In my opinion, that's the terminus of the law. If you are not willing to finish reading the rest of the story, you're not going to experience the complete fullness of the revelation of God, speaking this way, just colloquially. So ultimately, what Paul is calling the Ephesians to is further faith in Christ, demonstrated by a life of submission to your husbands' wives and devotion to your wives' husbands, sacrificial devotion, right? Because a husband of his wife above himself, that's called sacrifice. And a woman who has to put her opinions aside and not open her mouth in public and contradict her husband in front of everyone, that's sacrifice. She has to put him above her and not correct him in front of other people. To a certain extent, in what I'm saying. But Paul is saying here, do not get drunk with wine. He's basically saying that I don't want you to fall under the wrath that is coming against the sons of disobedience. So do not be drunk with wine. In my opinion, Paul would not have had to explain that phrase to anyone in his time. They would have all known that wine and drinking wine in the prophetic language is a symbol of judgment. So in order to escape judgment, you have to pay attention to what Paul is talking about here. Sorry if that was too long-winded.
No, it's fine. No, I agree, because I mean, in the Revelation, does it talk about the pouring out of God's judgments as though they're pouring out wine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. It's interesting, actually. I have been listening to. They call themselves biblical Unitarians. I don't know whether I'm looking for a doctrine that fits me. You know, I'm looking for an a la carte type of faith, but I do find their understanding of the scriptures interesting, and it sounds a bit like yourself. That every one of the four gospels starts off with, "This is the beginning of the story of Christ." Now, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it's quite clear they're talking about the appearance of Christ as a human, not his pre-existence. And yet John, again, this is their interpretation, that in the beginning was the Word. It's not talking about the beginning of creation, or the beginning as in the time of Adam, but the Word is not Jesus. The Word is personified as God. And the beginning is the beginning of the story of Christ, the appearance of Christ in the first century. And so when you read chapter 1 of John with that idea, it makes sense. It could be a valid interpretation of what John meant when he wrote that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a certain extent to the same comment that I made before, that a lot of this wouldn't have had to been explained to the first century audience the way it has to for us.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So the meaning of life, why we are here, and our existence is to improve our character.
Well, I mean, now that you're saying that over and over and over again, I don't want that just to be the nail that's being hung on things that I'm saying, because that's not,
Okay.
again, that's
It's part of it.
yeah, it's just an aspect or a shade or an underlying element. Because if you think to the scene that I showed in the clip in the episode with Billy Crystal, when Curly said the meaning to life is one thing, and Billy Crystal said, "What is it?" And he said, "You tell me. What does life mean to you? What does your life mean? It's what you give it. No one else can tell you what your life means. If someone else tells you what your life means, you're not an independent, sovereign subject. Now, you could be a child, your children, if you think about your children, you are giving them an environment where they are being shaped by you, by Anya, by your character, by her character, by your changes, by your lack of change, the way you speak, the way she speaks, the way you get angry, the way your children are going to be little apples from your tree that are going to bear the same kind of fruit that you bear.
Yeah.
And if we don't understand that my character as a father is going to be imprinted on my children, regardless how much I try for it not to be, I am creating little individuals who are going to be expressing themselves in what I hope to be the best possible expression. So if I don't teach them how to understand how their mind works, how they shape character, because regardless of how aware we are in how our minds shape our personalities, if we don't take an active role in shaping our personalities, our subconscious mind is going to shape it in this underlying program that is being written by your parents. In which have you read or seen the book The Four Agreements?
No.
So The Four Agreements is a very important book to come across. It's only about this big. It'll take you an hour to read through it, maybe an hour and a half. But basically, it's the idea that we create our own heaven or hell based on our affirming or denying what people say about us to us. So if my grandfather was belligerent and just beat me over the head and told me I was no good and I believed him, my character is going to be shaped by no ambition, no motivation, no intention, no direction, because my grandfather told me I was good for nothing.
Yeah.
So that's an agreement that I make. I don't know that that's what I did, but it shaped me. So then when I'm 35 or when I'm 55 and I see a character deficiency in myself and I think, where did this come from? And I can see it being an echo of my dad or my mom or my uncle. I can change at that moment to disagree with that and start over again. But I'm going to have 55 years of character development to undo. And that is almost as difficult as controlling imposing thoughts when you're meditating. If you just want to have a clear mind and you don't want to have any distractions, but your mind just keeps thinking of all of these thoughts, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do this, and you can't shut your brain off. shutting your brain off is almost as difficult as holding back a torrential flood. It's just inundating. And I guess what I'm trying to say ultimately is you must either be training yourself intentionally or you will be directed by what you would consider fate. You're out of control, then nothing's in your control, everything is happening to you. When in reality, you are creating everything that's happening to you, and you just continue to react to those things, which just keeps you in that cycle of just circling the drain, if that makes any sense.
Mm.
But so going back to what I said before about imagining if you were just a farmer on a, like if you didn't have to do 9 to 5, if you didn't have to go do DoorDash or Uber, like if you didn't have to work, what would you do? Who would you be? Right? Anyway, your hobby as a photographer could be your livelihood. But if you didn't need a livelihood and could just exist on a piece of property with a house and a family, and you took photographs and just gave them away to people because you loved being that way, that's who you are. That's your meaning. In our world, we are not simply bears and deer and cats and whatever who can just go out into existence and not have to worry about anything except oncoming traffic. You know, nobody goes to work. The only work that the animals do is like what Jesus said. Why do you worry about tomorrow? Consider the sparrows. They don't worry about tomorrow. They just, your heavenly Father feeds them. They go out and pick grains, and they don't have any worries. But we live in a matrix. We live in a system that has been contrived to hide away from us who we truly are by distracting us by being interested in industry and technology for, monetary gain. And if you want to have that house, if you want to have that car, then you're going to sacrifice your children to that God to get your happiness, and you're not going to be happy because the boat breaks down and you got a bantana or bantana or bantana. So we've just been presented with existence in a way that is completely antithetical to what is naturally inherent within us, and that is just to simply be happy. Because I don't know if you've ever heard anybody say this, but if someone says, well, I don't know what I should do with my life, the go-to answer is, what do you like to do? Do that to your best ability so that people will pay you for it. Because that's the only way you're going to make money on your own. Otherwise, you're going to have to go work for somebody else. But if you want to work for yourself, you either have to create a business, which is I don't want to be a business owner. I don't want to have to manage other people. But in this world, we have to do that, or we have to be such the entrepreneur that we make something so mind-blowingly novel and beautiful that people will say, do that for me, and here's my money.
We dried up.
No, I mean, I'm trying to practice reservation in talking because I can just keep talking. I just don't want to be saying things that aren't relevant and saying things that are a distraction. So I try to just shut up and be quiet and let you say something that, is meaningful to you.
Well, can I offer you my ideas on your channel? Whenever I see that you've posted something, the first thing I look at is how long it's going to be to listen to it. And if it's an hour, it's when am I going to have time to do that? If it was only 15 minutes, I'll listen to that while I'm dropping the kids off at school. I think to improve on your channel, it's only my opinion, is make the videos a lot smaller. Account for people's ability to sit down for an hour and listen, or their attention span even.
Yeah, I mean, if you go and look through anything on Radio Free Anarchy, especially if you go to the beginning of the year at January, I started making shorter videos. So my videos are there that are shorter, and I don't see any improved viewing because I've made shorter videos. I still have just as little views.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm only speaking for myself.
No, I mean, I've had, look, I just had a friend of mine who does reaction videos, and I actually interviewed him. He is, his name's Sohum, which means I am that I am. His name
Going
means,
mad.
yeah. But I asked him to watch a couple of my videos, and that was one of his critiques. Again, it's same as yours. But I found it very interesting that he doesn't even abide by his own critique of me, because his videos commit the same sin that he accused me of. Now, I'm not saying that he accused me. I'm saying the same sin that he tried to point out to me. He said, do this, do this, do this, and do this. And I thought to myself, I'll do that when you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But his channel is exploding, and he's got like 50,000 followers.
And what's the theme of his channel?
It's just music reactions.
Right. Okay.
And I tried to do the Bob Dylan one. I tried to do this. I tried to do this. I tried to do this. And I'm like, I'm just being myself. And it's just getting nowhere. It's just absolutely mind-numbingly boggling. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Okay.
Yeah. And that started all the way back from when I was making Bible studies 10 years ago.
Well, it's not like it's not like you're not fluent.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, you've got all the technique of a good speaker, and an exchange of thoughts as well. The reason why I haven't shared your channels, other channels, is because of the content. Because even though I agree with it, because I'm teaching chess, and I have a lot of parents following me as a chess teacher, I don't want to confuse. I don't put anything of any controversy on my Facebook page.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just my photography and the chess events. So that's the only reason why I have not shared your channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Facebook is my only thing I use. I don't use any of the other social media things.
Well, you've got it in your back pocket. You're talking to somebody someday, and they're like, do you watch anything that deals with spirituality or philosophy? Then you've got an open door there to share.
Yeah. Well, today's discussion wouldn't contradict, conflict with my followers of chess. The parents of the kiddies I'm teaching.
Yeah.
So I'll share it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've been talking for an hour and 17 minutes, and there's no one watching, Mark. How is there no one here?
I don't know.
Not even trolls.
Right. Well, we'll work on it. Find out what. I mean, I think the title existential. You can tell I've never used that word before. It wouldn't have drawn anybody in, I don't think.
Well, that's fair enough. But there's 7 billion people in the world. There's got to be some philosopher out there who's going to see my channel and hear something maybe for the first time or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all about just consistency and keeping with it. I've struggled with the whole idea of, am I insane? Because I continue to try to succeed making content, and I am not succeeding. That's insane. Why should I keep trying? Why? And yet here I am. So to me, that shows me a bit of who I am. Like, this is who I am. I have to keep making this. When Van Gogh was going around painting and no one understood how he saw the world and painted it, he had to keep painting. And
Well, shall we do the 9 fruits of the spirit one at a time and make it shorter?
yeah, you want to, well, we could, what if we could just do one huge long one, a 9-hour stream, and then cut it into 1-hour segments.
Yeah, we could do that as well. Yeah.
Or we could very well meet again in a few days or whatever and have time to think about love, and then come back and maybe have a few things, maybe a few little notes from each other to talk about, and then try to be as brief as possible. But I mean,
Yeah. Well, let's do that. Love. We'll start with love.
all right, sounds good.
Right. Okay. At the moment, it's
The other, what I'm going to do real quick is I'll send it to you on through Messenger. But 2 songs came to mind, and they're both from the same group, from the '80s, right at the beginning of the new wave '80s rock.
yeah.
There was a Christian group called The Call.
The Call.
Yeah, THECALL, The Call.
Yeah.
And they are an amazing Christian band, primarily because their music is top notch. Their lyrics are top notch, and the vocals are top notch. Now, the lead vocalist, I think, died probably about maybe less than 20 years ago. Michael Ben or Bean, I think. I can't remember. His last name is spelled Been, but I can't remember how it's pronounced. It's either Ben or Bean. Man, that guy can sing and write, and these 2 songs are just epic. But a couple of things that you said made me think of him, so I'm going to send them to him. I think you'll appreciate him. And as a matter of fact, yeah, never mind. I'll just send it to you. Yeah. So, what would work good for scheduling our next appointment?
How many hours difference is there between you and me?
I think it is either 7 or 8.
Okay. So
Is
it's
it?
round about. So if what's convenient to you?
I mean, right now, earlier, whatever, because you're at your bedtime right now, right?
Well, the house goes quiet round about 7 o'clock
Okay.
for me. So that's early morning for you.
Is that when you would prefer it?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's only yeah. It's probably more late morning than early morning, I would say. Yeah, it's probably about 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So if 7 o'clock your time is good, and I'm not busy with something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've done all the school runs and bath times and homework help, that sort of thing. And 7 o'clock it goes quiet. I just picked up a song there by Call. I Still Believe, brackets, great design.
Yeah.
Is that probably them?
That is probably their most listened to song, and it was used in the 1987 pop vampire horror movie, The Lost Boys.
Okay.
And they refused to sing it. They let them have the song to use in the movie, but they refused to be the musicians because of the genre of horror and vampirism.
Yeah.
But yeah, that song is an amazing song as well. But I'll send you, now that I'm thinking of another one, I'm going to send you 3 songs that I think will absolutely blow your mind. But I encourage you to listen to them with headphones on, because one of them, the engineering of it is just, I think, so good. When you listen to the lyrics, and then you listen to the engineering of how they created audio to encapsulate the lyrics, I just think it's just top notch, just beauty.
Okay,
So,
well, listen, I'll listen to the link you send me, and I'll listen to this one as well.
all right, man.
Okay, and sort of early next week, we'll have another chat.
Well, can we do maybe more specific? Can we do a day instead of just saying early next week?
Yeah, should we go for Tuesday of next week?
Sure. That's my birthday. I
All right.
expect a song.
Okay. All right. I mean, you're not having a birthday party or anything like that, no?
Not that I'm planning.
Okay. We'll go for Tuesday, God willing. And I'm going to say good night now.
Fare thee well, my king.
Good man. Thank you, my king, my sovereign.
That's right. Yeah.
Good night.
All right. Let's empower as many people as we can, Mark.
Okay. Good man. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Ciao.